The next topic we'll be covering in class is histology. All right, the definition of histology is the study of tissues. What is a tissue? From chapter 1, if we recall, a tissue is a collection of specialized cells that has a certain function. So these cells are going to work together to have a certain function. There's 4 types of tissues that we'll be studying. The first type is epithelial. Second type is connective. Third is muscular. And then the fourth is the nervous. Let's start out with the epithelial tissue. Some typical structures that you're going to see in a typical epithelial are a basal lamina or a basement membrane. All right. What that means is that it's going to have kind of like a basement. There's going to be a layer underneath it. I will point these out. You're also going to have germinative cells replace short-lived cells. What that means is, the other word for a germinative cell is a stem cell. So these stem cells are going to undergo mitosis and push the other cells up. And it's going to have a free exposed surface. Because this is the outer layer, there's a surface that is going to be free. All right, I'll point these 3 things out when we start looking at tissues. Classification, how do we name these tissues? One is by the number of layers. Okay, so if it has 1 layer, it's called simple. If it has 2 or more layers, it's called stratified. All right, so we go by the number of layers, then we go by the shape. Okay, squamous has the shape of an egg. Okay, they're called squamous cells. They're flat, and they kind of look, like a fried egg with a nucleus in the middle. All right, cuboidal. All right, since the name, it's going to look just like a cube, and then columnar. All right, is going to be cells with a column shape. Okay, so for example, if you had 1 layer of a flat cell, you'd call it simple squamous. If you had 2 or more layers of a cuboidal cell, you'd call it stratified cuboidal. All right, now let's look at these tissues. All right, you can see these pictures in your laboratory manual, but let's kind of point these out. The first one here is your simple squamous epithelium. All right, so as we look at it, as this picture is also in your lab book, it points out the location and function. Okay, the one thing I want to point out here is magnification. Okay, so this magnification is at 238. The magnification that we're going to have in our microscope and for your lab practical is going to be at 400. Okay, so please note that these pictures are not exactly what you're going to be seeing in the microscope and in your lab practical. Okay, I've highlighted some of, all of these are locations, but I've kind of highlighted the ones that are going to carry over into the next unit. Simple squamous, because it is 1 layer of squamous cells, it's in blood vessels. Now this is a very, very thin layer, and because it's very thin, all right, one of the functions is permeability. Okay, if you remember from bio, permeability is the ability to go in and out. So when you're looking at blood vessels, when you're looking at lungs, they're very paper thin because oxygen and carbon dioxide can diffuse through both layers. Okay, some things I wanted to point out in this picture. Okay, this right here is your basal lamina. So this is your epithelial tissue right here. All right, and then this is our connective tissue above. Okay, so kind of just pointing out this. The next tissue I wanted to show is stratified squamous. Okay, here's a little bit of a better illustration of what we're talking about before the free surface. Do you see how there's nothing attached on this whole portion right here? Okay, because there's nothing attached, that's a free surface, so it's one of the epithelial. Where there's a color change right here, right, where you see this color change right there, all right, this would be your epithelial tissue, this would be your connective tissue. All right, this is more than 1 layers, so we get stratified, and if you can notice these cells on top, they flatten out. So this is where we get our stratified squamous. The bottom layer here is where we see our germinative cells or our stem cells. Okay, so when these undergo mitosis, these cells push up. Okay, and this layer will flake away. Okay, this is found in your skin. Okay, what does your skin do? It protects. The next one is simple. Okay, you can see the one layer right here. All right, this would be your basement membrane or your basal lamina, and then this is your free exposed surface right here. All right, you can see the cube shapes of the cells. Okay, so this is simple cuboidal. Simple cuboidal is found in the kidneys. Okay, the function of that is secretion and absorption. Transitional. Now this does not follow the guidelines of the naming. Okay, it's transitional. Here we have our basal lamina. Here we have our free exposed surface. All right, and it's more than one layer. Okay, you can see it's more than one layer, but there's really no rhyme or reason to the cells. Okay, they're just there. There's really no shape, and because of this, all right, they're found in the bladder and they expand and recoil. Okay, so what does your bladder do when it's full? These tissues are going to expand out, and then after you empty your bladder, obviously these tissues are going to recoil. Okay. Simple columnar epithelium. All right, you could definitely see the column-shaped cells. Okay, see the nucleus. There's your free space. Okay, one of the features here that you see is microvilli. Okay, this is your basement membrane, and then this would be your connective tissue here. All right, so again, the free space, one cell column shape. So this is my simple columnar epithelium. This helps line my stomach and intestines, and it secretes and absorbs. Okay, in your intestines, this microvilli is there. It increases surface area, so we're able to absorb many nutrients in that part of the body. Okay, one thing found in these column cells, and I have a picture over here, is a specialized cell. Okay, that specialized cell, all right, is called a goblet cell. The purpose of a goblet cell is to secrete mucus for protection. Okay, pointing out some features here. Right here is my basal lamina or basement membrane. You've got your free exposed surface. This one is, when looking under a microscope, okay, this is a prominent feature. This will tell you exactly. You see this cilia. Cilia is a hair-like projection. You're going to see that right away. Okay, so you're going to look for that, and you're going to see the cilia, and you're going to know right away. This is called pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelial. Pseudo means fake or false. So it looks like it's many layers, but it's actually just one layer of column cells. Okay, and you can see the cilia here. All right, the cilia is for protection. Okay, what are we protecting from? So this is found in your nasal cavity, trachea, bronchi, reproductive tract. Okay, so these are found where there's holes in the body, like your mouth. So this is going to be protective for, dust, debris, bacteria to trap into the cilia. Okay, we don't have these cells, stratified columnar. We don't have these cells for the lab practical, so just pointing out, you can cross that out. Okay, if you want to review, okay, we could go to this website. Okay, and it's got a review of all the tissues, not just the epithelial. All right, so identify the tissue, identify the thin strands, identify the thick strands. All right, and then to see answers, you click. Okay, you go to the next one. You know, this is something we saw. Identify the tissue. All right, this tissue was, if we can remember what that was your cilia. All right, this is my free space. So you know that's because of the cilia, it's pseudostratified ciliated columnar. The light gray region up here, for right now, we're going to call that your free exposed space. What is the structure right here? All right, epithelial tissues.